This is a guidance video to give you some top tips on writing a really good research report. Now I'm going to argue that classically a report has 8 different sections. The best place to begin is at the beginning with the title, what we might call the hypothesis. Now this word means a sort of academic prediction to start off the research project. Now there are different types of hypotheses. Now in a research project we are usually looking at a correlation between 2 different variables. So a classic example would be one such as student attendance usually correlates with student achievement. This is what we call a directional hypothesis. And if we predict a particular direction in a particular way, so for instance, the higher a student's attendance, the higher their achievement, we call this a one-tailed hypothesis. Now in the report, the abstract will come next. That's a short summary of the report. Now in all honesty, it's probably best writing this at the end because you essentially give a flavour of what the report is all about, the methods you used and the overall conclusion. You include things like the type of data that you used. Now number 3 is the introduction. This is where you conduct what we call secondary research. This is where you read up on your key area that you're willing to explore, and you start quite broadly on a subject. So let's just say you're going to research Mars bars. So you would start researching chocolate in general, then maybe something about chocolate factories, and then work your way down to Mars bars. Okay. Secondary research might consist of information you've got from books, journals, websites, e-books, etc. Okay, there's many fantastic sources out there. And the point of doing secondary research is to prove that you've done some further reading into this area, and it'll come in handy a bit later on. The next section is methodology, which includes a few different parts. Okay, most research projects include a section on ethics. However, at this level we're not going to make you do anything unethical, but essentially make a note to say that this study isn't going to cause unnecessary distress or problems for the participants involved in the study. The best way to do that is to do anonymous data, so you don't include people's real names. Now there's 2 really academic words there, validity and reliability. Validity essentially means that is the information you're finding in this study valid? So is this a good way of doing the study? Whereas reliability is something slightly different. Could somebody do the same research methods with a different sample group or the same sample group and find the same information? Is it replicable? The next section is results, which is where you present your primary data. Now this is the information that you found yourself. This might be through questionnaires or surveys. University levels, people do observations and interviews, but as a little warning, for every hour of verbal data that you get, it usually takes about 10 hours to transcribe. And I think the surveys and questionnaires is useful because you can get a lot of quantitative data, that is numerical data such as shoe size, height or weight or distance. Okay, and that's really useful in the discussion, or what some tutors prefer to call data analysis, because it's quite easy to mix or compare and contrast the primary and secondary data. Okay, so in your results I think it's a good idea to perhaps present your findings in graphs and charts. It makes it easier to understand, and it looks a lot more academic than just simply reading a list of numbers for us an external verifier. And in the discussion and data analysis, summarise what you found. Okay, tell us what correlations you spotted in the primary secondary data. Essentially this section is your conclusion. Number 7 is references. It's important that you adhere to the Harvard referencing system, so I've handed out an orange booklet which has reference guidance in there. It's important in the introduction for your secondary research that you declare where you got that information from. If you do not, you are susceptible to be accused of plagiarism. So you've got to make sure that all your secondary research is referenced to the books journals, etc. And if you're going back to some of that information in the discussion and data analysis, make sure that information is referenced there. Now, the appendix often confuses people. The appendix is essentially copies of your questionnaires and any other resources that you use. If you have used a website like SurveyMonkey to do some of your surveys, it's a good idea to have a print screen of the questionnaire and the data that comes from it. Good luck with your research project. It is important to remember that you are meeting the assignment criteria for that particular unit which you're doing your research projects on. So double check the assignment briefs. They are available on Scoodle, and you should have a printed copy for each individual unit. Please liaise with your tutors if you're not quite sure about what area you want to explore in your research project, and perhaps speak to some of the other students as well. They might give you some interesting ideas. Good luck.